tell you how glad I am to see all of you. I feel like I'm seeing all of my friends again. And I hope you had a wonderful holiday break. I certainly did. And I hope you all survived that really cold weather. I went to Colorado where it was a little bit warmer, actually. I'm not kidding. But it reminds me about hearing about a couple of Eskimos who were sitting in a kayak and they were absolutely freezing. And so they thought, we're going to build a fire to warm up. And they did. Well, no surprise, the kayak sank, which just proves once again that you can't have your kayak and heat it too. I always test those out on my husband and he laughs. Today is National Spaghetti Day. And it recognizes that long, thin, cylindrical pasta of Italian and Sicilian origin. The word spaghetti is plural for the Italian word spaghetto, which is a diminutive of spago, which means thin string or twine. Now, I found the most interesting part about this is that in March of 2009, the world record for the largest bowl of spaghetti was set and then reset again the following year when a California restaurant successfully filled a swimming pool with more than 13,780 pounds of spaghetti. Now, I was hoping we'd have spaghetti today, but you know how to celebrate, so we won't even go there. So let's start now with the A Verse of America.
Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims' pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Stan Teeter will offer our invocation today.
Says the mic is very hot, so I'll stand back. Frank actually asked me to give the invocation on the 21st of December, just before Christmas, and I know it's after Christmas now, but I thought the thoughts that Reverend Orville Miller, a former pastor at First United Methodist Church, put forth in his Christmas creed is something that we live with all year, so I'm going to share that with you. I believe that Christmas is a spirit, and they that find it must seek it in spirit and in truth. I believe that it is not a season of the year, but a way to live. It comes whenever wise men and shepherds bow down in the same shrine, whenever charity displaces intolerance, when old enemies forgive one another, whenever kindness takes the place of ill will. I believe in the Christmas hope is a way of life for all persons and nations. And I believe that peace on earth and goodwill among all can be living realities. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Stan. Mark DeGroff will do our guest introductions today.
With a hot mic and this heat wave, I'm surprised we didn't see more flip-flops and golf shorts here today. Remember, it's been a long holiday break, and we're going to go over and practice our new greeting of guests routine. So Frank Henderson is going to be my guest today. So I'll introduce Frank as he stands up. This is Frank Henderson. He's Deputy Director of Topeka Rescue Mission.
Hi.
Hi, Frank. Good job, everybody. Happy New Year, and we'll get started with guests now. So David Beck has two today. Jennifer Pacciani is a former host family for an exchange student and a prospective member, I understand. Hi, Jennifer. And also we have Ariana Bejanaro, who is an exchange student currently. Hi, Ariana. All right, folks, a little more energy. Next, a guest of Katie Brown, we have Amy Kopp Hasty. Hi, Amy. Amy is the development director for Vallejo and a new resident of Topeka as of about 18 months ago, and I'm guessing a prospective member as well, we hope. Now, as a guest of both Eugene Williams and Val Vandersloos, one of the funniest duos we've got in the club, Danielle Sipe. Hi, Danielle. Welcome. As a guest of Joan Wagner, we have two folks to introduce today. Her lovely husband and Freedom Festival guru now, Bill Wagner. Hi, Bill. And we have Nicole Revenant. Hi, Nicole. Nicole works with the Palmer Law Group, and I think we know a few of those folks here today as well. Next we have, as a guest of Kathleen, it's Allison Marker. Hi, Allison. I believe they are related, and she's resource development at the YWCA, so welcome. And lastly, as a guest of Judge Crotty, who I told her she didn't have to stand, and she said, I insist, I can stand. We have Richard Vonbrake, Dr. Vonbrake. Hi, Richard. Welcome one and all. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. Today, or this month, January, our featured charity is Topeka Performing Arts Center. And the mission of TPAC is to foster the performing arts through excellence in programming by providing for the advancement, promotion, presentation, and development of the arts to meet the diverse cultural and educational needs of our community. And I want to say a special thanks to Larry Gronsky, who is the executive director, for allowing our board to meet there every month. It's really, really great. So please give generously. I do want to announce also, with great pleasure, that Andy Tompkins is back. He's been off south someplace, I think. So Andy, hi Andy, welcome back. And Mike Cooner is also back in town, and he is joining our club. Hi, Mike.
Hi, everybody.
We're so glad. Thank you. And Jim McCullough has a couple of very exciting words he would like to say.
I have good news. First of all, today is the 10th day of Christmas, so it's okay to still say Merry Christmas, okay? Secondly, the Peace Center has been the recipient of the Rotary's grant of $20,000 now for the second year. And we, again, want to say thank you to the Rotary Club for that. But I also want to tell you that, you know, how, though we haven't had that much snow yet, you know how a snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And in our case, that's a really good thing, because I think the Rotary grant has helped to put the Peace Center on the bulletin board, so to speak. And we are the recipients of a $70,000 grant from the Department of Corrections. I'm sure you have read about the results of Senate Bill 267, which was passed in 2016. Took the state a year to kind of get things together, but the whole idea was to, rather than spending so much on out-of-home care for kids that have experienced problematic issues, rather than that, to use community programs for helping kids. And so the real beneficiaries of this grant are the kids of Shawnee County, because we're going to be working with them. We believe that every kid's a good kid. Sometimes they just make bad decisions, like all of us do. And so we'll be working with these kids, and Lindsay Anderson will be working full-time, and we're delighted. So thanks to Rotary for helping putting us on the board, and thanks to the Department of Corrections for Shawnee County for our grant.
Some of you probably probably already know that we really do have a very special guest today, thanks to the weather on the East Coast. Senator Jerry Moran is with us today, and I would love for him to give us a little bit of wisdom. And we have discussed this already, but he is a Rotarian, so he is aware of our time constraints, and he is also aware of how we do or do not address political things. So, Senator Moran.
Madam President, a president I can work with, is that too political? It's a delight to be here. It's true, I was intending to be in Washington, D.C. today, and votes were canceled because of weather. I'm enough of knowledgeable of our state to know when Rotary clubs meet across Kansas, and it's Thursday, it's noon, Topeka Rotary. This is my third Rotary of the week. On my way to Washington, D.C., my intended way to Washington, D.C., I was the program at Garnett Rotary on Tuesday and the Winfield Rotary on Wednesday. So thank you for having three makeups for me this week. I was only invited to join Rotary. I'm a member of the Hayes Rotary Club. We moved 5 years ago from Hayes to Manhattan. There are 2 Rotary clubs in Manhattan. I'm not politically adept enough to pick which one to join, so I remained a member of the Hayes Rotary Club. And they only invited me to join after I was elected to Congress. So I became, I don't know, I must have got the right category. We didn't have one of those in our club. And so I've been a Rotarian for more than 20 years, and I very much appreciate what it is that civic clubs and Rotary in particular do in our communities. Too often we look to Washington, D.C. or Topeka or even local government to solve our problems when we know the better solution in many circumstances is people in a community rolling up their sleeves and solving a problem and meeting the needs of their neighbors, people they know and don't know. And so thank you to Rotary for what you do. Internationally, service in the United States Senate, where I have been the ranking Republican on the subcommittee in appropriations that funds eradication of polio, has caused me to be able to meet a Republican never wants to admit, this isn't political, never wants to admit that he knows a billionaire, but I've been able to meet a billionaire in the process of our efforts to eradicate polio. And that foundation does tremendous work in conjunction with Rotary International. It's given me the opportunity to spend time with international presidents in regard to what this club and other Rotary clubs across the state of Kansas or around the country and around the globe have done to make the world a better place. And so thank you for those efforts. Mayor, I'm honored to be here. Mayor-elect, I'm honored to be here on a day in which you're the program. It means that the media is here to visit with you, not me, and that's very pleasing. But I'm especially honored to see you and know you, to meet you one more time as you begin your job as mayor. I would tell you that please consider us an ally in trying to make things better for the people of Topeka, and from infrastructure to the VA, from Washburn Tech to education and public schools in Topeka. Please know that we're very interested in trying to do the things that improve the chances of a better life for the people of our state, and particularly here in the capital city. Finally, I would say that it's nice to see Andy Tompkins. We miss him at Hayes. We would have loved to have kept him a while longer, but my wife was a member of the Board of Regents and became well acquainted with Andy. We hold him in the highest regard. It's nice to see you welcome him back to Topeka Rotary. And Robert was also a member of the Board of Regents of Washburn University, so we are eclectic in our support of universities across the state, from Fort Hays to Washburn. I'm a Jayhawk, our kids are K-Staters and are Wildcats, and we live in Manhattan. Finally, I would say, Madam President, that our daughter Alex is now a veterinarian in Topeka, so we have an additional reason to become a regular visitor to your city. And I'm avoiding, despite the temptation, having lunch with you so that I can have lunch with a veterinarian who's only off from work until 1:45. So thank you very much for allowing me to join you. Best wishes in the new year. And Mayor, congratulations to you on your election, and best wishes in public service as we try to make sure good things happen in this community. Thank you all.
Thank you for joining us today. Our wonderful program today is going to be introduced by a new guest.
Good afternoon. Before I make this wonderful introduction, I have to acknowledge someone who wasn't introduced as a guest. And you all need to know that our new city manager is sitting here. Would you stand up, Brent? Brent Trout. Hello. Larry and I had dinner with he and his wife last night, and let me assure you, the quality of life continues to go up in Topeka. We're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, now, if you were here 10 years ago, think back. In 2008, a new experience was about to happen here in Topeka. The beginning of a turnaround in our city. A national consultant had been hired by the Chamber to work with nearly 100 Topekans who volunteered to come together to share dreams, create visions, and develop plans for making our community more vibrant. Heartland Visioning. One of those teams focused on downtown, and the team met on a weekly basis for many months. It was through those teams that Larry and I first met Michele de la Isla. She was high energy, articulate, passionate member of the downtown team. A friendship developed, and Larry and I were happy when she was elected to City Council 4 years ago, just as we are now happy she was elected as mayor to follow Larry. Having worked with her, we knew she had the passion for the city to carry forward what had started with Heartland Visioning, and she has the energy required for this leadership position. What is interesting is that Michele is not a lifelong Topekan. She was born in New York and moved with her mother and brother to Puerto Rico as a teenager. She moved to Wichita in 2000, got a degree in biology. 5 years later, she moved to Topeka and became Chief Financial Officer at the Housing and Credit Council. And then she later became Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity and was there until she joined Westar as the Diversity and Inclusion Representative, a position she presently holds and will work it in tandem with becoming Mayor of Topeka when she takes the oath of office next Monday, January 8, 2018, with her 3 children watching. She will be Topeka's first Hispanic mayor, first Latina mayor, and the first mayor to be a single mother. I don't know how she does it all. She says she's never prepared a speech in her life. She speaks from the heart, and I know that's true. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Mayor-elect Michele de la Isla.
I'm going to put this here in hopes that I don't move too much because I have a little tinge of ADD. And it comes across when I speak, and if you tie my hands, I'm part Italian, and if you tie my hands, I shut up. So I can't have this in my hands. And it's not working. Okay, I'll figure this out. So, hi! You're supposed to say, hi, Michele. Hi. How are all of you? I'm so excited to be here today. As I look through this room, I look at every single person that I know, and I think, my gosh, you guys have really down your standards to let people into the club. I used to be a Topeka South Rotarian. I am here with the privilege to speak to all of you as your incoming mayor. And very well, like Anita said, Miss Anita, First Lady of Topeka, I don't prepare speeches. I believe that if I'm going to address a group, I should do it from the heart, because if I have to read something, I am not being genuine. I am not good with that. Which means that I will both have a lot of support, because I'll be compelling and I'll be honest, but also that means that I may ruffle some feathers, and it's okay. So, as I was thinking of what I was going to do today to address all of you, and how we were going to talk about the community, I went ahead and the first thing that I did before I headed over here was ask my partner in leading the city manager Brent Trout, to join us today. And the reason that that was important is because I think that one of the things that we have struggled with in our community is really understanding the way of our new form of government. The mayor is the person that interacts with the community, hears the voices of the citizens, and then helps work with the city manager hand in hand, who is the administrator of the staff. we are a board of directors, if you want to call it that. And the mayor and the city manager work side by side. So I would have felt extremely uncomfortable talking about the future of our city without having him here. So thank you, City Manager Trout, for joining me today. So let's talk about Topeka. And I was thinking, man, this is a great group to talk to. What should I say? Topeka needs you. Topeka needs you. I am going to talk about some things that are very uncomfortable, and I'm going to try to do so in a very minute time, and I will stick around. But I will tell you that Topeka needs you, and that we're in good company, because there's a lot of great people that are willing to stand up and help. Who's our city? 127,000 people, 31% poverty. We have a city that is being administered in a great way. We've had 3 years of not raising the mill levy. We have roads that are being processed right now. We have been losing funds from the state. However, we have been very judicious and extended the half cent sales tax that, by the way, I'm gonna need all of you to help re-up, because that half cent sales tax is going directly into roads that are being repaired today. We are looking at efficiencies. We're looking at economic development. Guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but we are the one place in the world that makes M&Ms. Caramel M&Ms. We are the home of caramel M&Ms. So much so that I am Mayor Michele M&M in honor of caramel M&Ms. But think about it. We have Mars in our backyard, and they haven't had a plant open in the longest time, but they chose us. They chose us. But guess what? If we want to have more companies like Mars come into our backyard, we need to have phenomenal, superb talent. And when our talent is struggling because we have 31% of poverty, I'm asking all of you, what is your part? So this is important, and it matters because you can change a life. You heard a little bit of my story. My life was one of the lives of one of the 31% individuals that live in the city of Topeka in poverty. What Anita didn't say that was happening in my life when I moved to Topeka, and when I moved to Kansas in the year 2000, I left Puerto Rico because I was homeless. I have finally gotten the Pell Grants, loaded myself up in student loans that I'm still trying to pay off today. And I went ahead and came over here because I was singing at my church. The pastor, the priest, though, at that point in time, it was a father. Father Pat saw me in the church, said, hey kid, you have potential, you need to leave the island. And a whole bunch of people believed in me enough that they went ahead, gave me $2,000, and I came with my son with $2,000 and no contacts to Wichita State. I had voc rehab, finished my degree, and then got married and moved to Topeka. Moved to Topeka because I had a husband who was abusive. And I ended up working at Housing and Credit Counseling as Director of Operations because Karen Hiller gave me a chance. Because I literally told her, hey, I've never done this job, Karen, but if you give me a chance, I promise I won't let you down. And Karen said, okay, let's give her a chance. And through that process, I had to go through a divorce in Topeka. I was living in poverty. I lost my house. I had cancer, I had a stroke, I had medical bills without insurance. That if you look at my report and if you look at the public records, you see the story. What is different about me when you think about all the other people in the city that are living in poverty? The difference is that I had you. I had people that believed enough that when I didn't have strength, they supported me. I had a YWCA and a Joan Proctor that just absolutely revolutionized my life. I had people that when I said, hey, I don't understand about urban development, but I want to get involved, what do I need to do? Let me show up, and Karen let me use the boardroom downstairs so that I could have these crazy group of people that later were called the Capital District Project to come and talk about downtown planning. And I remember sitting there thinking, I don't know what they're talking about, but I could cook. So I used to bring them breakfast at 7:30 in the morning just so that I would have some value to the team. But guess what happened? I was given value. I was made come to life. It wasn't about Michele, the one that didn't have the newest clothes or the brand name, or that had to go home and had to show up in meetings with 2 little girls and a son that has severe persistent mental illness who she was struggling with because he was in and out of foster care because he was a danger to her daughters. It was about Michele, the one that was sitting at the table trying her best to learn about the system, and people said, hey, I'm gonna give her a chance. And then when I wasn't feeling like I was contributing, I would say, man, I just want to stop being in this committee because I don't think that I'm giving enough. And somebody else, like William said, no, you're giving to the committee, don't worry, you're bringing something. Why don't you develop this plan? And then all of a sudden that plan is now part of what we're doing, not exactly that plan, but part of what we're doing with the joining, the Topeka partnership. Even before that happened, but I was given a chance. I need you. I need all of you to think about what neighbor or child you know that would benefit from you investing in their life. I need you all to drive into the neighborhood that you don't frequent. I need you to open up your eyes to what is happening at NetReach in Highcrest. Because guess what, my friends? We've had over 5 years of being in that neighborhood. We've turned around the crime because we've been there, we fed people, we mentored people, and now we're getting ready to blast out of Highcrest and go to another neighborhood. I need you. We need you. Topeka needs you. If we're going to have individuals being ready for the workforce, they need to know that they are valued for the workforce. And it starts with our kids. We have racial tensions happening in our community right now that are overwhelming. Mr. Trout and I have been meeting with community leaders, trying to mend the wounds that our residents feel. And whether you agree with those feelings, perception is reality. It's not about shaming anybody of anything that happened in the past. It's about all of us coming together and understanding that we all play a role and that we could mend those wounds. I need you. Topeka needs you. So there's a lot of great things that are coming up. City Manager Trout and I are working right now. As we are here today, we have a panel working on getting us a police chief. How many of you are excited about that?
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. We've worked on a great process, and it was wonderful because when I was deputy mayor and we were working on hiring Mr. Trout, one of the things that we put on the checklist was we need to have community input. We need to have community input. And it was wonderful to see that our city manager was thirsty for community input as well. Right now, as we're here, we have panels of community leaders that are representative from our community. All different socioeconomic statuses, genders and ethnicities, sitting down with our 3 candidates, meeting them. If you're not doing anything at 5:30 today, go to the Ramada, please. Meet our chiefs. Tell Mr. Trout, btrout@topeka.org, mdelaisla@topeka.org. Let us know what you think of the people that you're talking to, because here is where we need you to help select the right candidate that's going to work to help us with the crime in our city. I'll tell you what, guys, crime is not about people being mean. A lot of crimes happen. When I used to work at Highland Park with Dale Cushenberry, I will never forget a day that a young man was in his office because there was a gang coming in from California. And they were looking for this specific young man because another young man had been killed, and they were having a number on him, and they were bringing people. This happens in Topeka, by the way. And this was back in 2009, I think it was, when I was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And Dale Cushenberry in his Cushenberry voice says, "Oh, Mr. De La Isla, could you please walk in and talk to these young men?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." So I'm thinking, I'm gonna do some recon. I wanna figure out why these kids are doing this, right? Because I'm thinking they want the power, right? They want the colors. They want, you know, that whole thing of being able to walk around and change the world because they're gonna have power, and maybe that's what the root cause is. And Cushenberry, in his Cushenberry way, says, "This is Miss De La Isla, and she's working hard to represent you. And every time that you do something silly, you make her look bad." And I'm thinking, I'm not here to, you know, guilt you. So he's like, so can I talk to them? And he's like, go ahead. So I sit down and I asked these 3 kids. It was 3 kids, and it was the one specific young man. And I asked, so what moves you to join the gang? Why are you doing this? And he looked me dead in the eyes, and he said, protection. Let that sink in. Not power, protection. What have we done that our kids feel like they need to join the gang to get protection? So, Think of that. This has been happening, and now today we have all these crimes. People are involved in crime because they feel like they have a family and a network. We need you. We need you badly. There's many places that you could get involved. Kathleen Marker has a great program at the YWCA. If you're passionate about going ahead and working with domestic violence, she's the person to go to. We have Habitat for Humanity that is building houses. We have the Peace and Justice Center that was here, that is hungry to figure out how we have uncomfortable conversations in our community so that we could go ahead and turn around the tide. We have so many places. We have Stormont that has been a champion in trying to make sure that we provide. They're the only nonprofit hospital right now, my friends. Remember that. So if a family does not have resources, they're not going to go to the new hospital. They're great. They're a great partner. But just remember that we have resources. Their doctors do health access so that our families have medicines for free. Those that are the most in need are those that we are in charge of taking care of. And it would be no good to me to move forward Momentum 2022 with Matt Pavarnik and the whole community, and Glenda, and all the people that are working on it, and lift up Washburn University, which is our pillar, and celebrate Topeka 501, which is our school that we should all be proud of, unless the people in our community feel like they have support. We need you. So with that, I will stop, and I will answer questions. Seriously? Come on, Eugene, throw me a bone.
Well, I know when you were running for office, one of the very first forums that you did was one that I actually kind of conducted. I think you said some really interesting and engaging things at that time. Has anything changed between your running, being a candidate, to now reaching a point where you're actually going to be in office? Has anything changed in the city dramatically in that 6 or 8 month period for you?
I think that the first change is the fact that we have a city manager, and at that point in time, I think that we were still in the process of bringing him in. We have also the search for the chief of police, which is huge as well in our community. Man, just yesterday we found out that Zach Aarons, who was a great partner in our community, is leaving our city. And Zach, just so that everybody knows, again, we need you in the sense that we, for the first time in the longest time, had a great relationship with our newspaper.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong, yes. And we didn't always agree. When we were going through the recent challenges that we were going through, you would see one day an article that was very factual and then another article that was very pro another side, and it was going back and forth. But all of that happened after the new purchase. Prior to that, there was a really great relationship, and our newspaper was, celebrating the things that were happening great in the community at the same time that they were reporting things that they needed to report. So there's many things that are changing. I think that the racial tensions that we once knew that were occurring in our city are much more blatant at this point in time. But other than that, no, they're really, just those minor changes. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, Mayor-elect Michele, congratulations on your victory. And I guess I'd like to ask, we have had a city manager form of government for now 2 terms of mayors. The last 2 mayors have chosen to be full-time mayors, and that is their choice, and they have done that. I guess you have done this, and we have a city manager form of government. What you're doing, I happen to believe, is the way it was intended by the ordinance. How do you see transitioning the city through choice away from that, I guess, full-time person in the office, even though that wasn't how it was intended to be designed? It's some people's perception that regardless of ordinance, that's just what we had. So the mayor isn't really running the city. The city manager is running the city. You don't appoint parks commissioners, and the people don't report to you. They report to the city manager. The city manager reports to the council. So how do you, I guess, help with that transition of perception?
So I think that I was very strategic in making sure the city manager was here today. And I think that it's a partnership. It really is a partnership. Mayor Wolgast was not at the office every single day from 8 to 5. And he does go in. Lord knows that we are in between meetings and meetings and meetings out in the community all day. I can tell you that my schedule, what it looks like, I'm there 7 in the morning with city manager every morning meeting, just doing a catch up. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. But it's, hey, this is what's happening, here's what I'm hearing from the community. And that works great because I empower our city manager to have access to all the information that I have, and the relationship is mutual. So I told him my number one thing is no surprises. I don't ever want to be surprised, and you don't ever want to be surprised by anything that I say. Because we have to come at the city together. Time-wise, I think that the mayor job, I don't care what people say, it is a 24/7 job. If my phone rings in the middle of the night, or like I get an email in the middle of the night like the other night saying TPD found this and we have to deal with it, we deal with it at whatever time.
Just like city council.
Just like city council. So I think that the big transition and what I am going to aim for is to be very present with my city manager, our city manager, at anything that we're doing, so that the things that I cannot address, we are both there to address them together. And I think that that's one of the things that you'll see a change on.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. You're very inspirational. We're looking forward to your term. Now, I'm sure you have enough coffee cups already. And so rather than giving you a Rotary coffee cup, what we would like to do, it's our tradition to provide a book to Ross Elementary School, and we'd like for you to sign that before you go. I'd also like to give you our Rotary coin, which has the 4-way test on the back, and if you would enjoy that for a while, and if you would like to pass it on, that would be wonderful as well. Third, I would like very much to personally invite you to become a member of our Rotary Club, so if you would consider that. So we're very thankful that you were here today speaking with us. We appreciate it very much. Next week, we will be right back here, and our speaker will be Stu Ince, our very own Stu Ince. Will be talking about World War I 100 years ago. Now, I hope all of you know that the new branding for Rotary is Rotary People of Action. And I ran across this quote by John Kennedy, which I thought was very appropriate. He said, "There are risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risks of comfortable inaction." I really like that. So let's stand and close with the 4-way test +1. Of the things we think, say, or do,
is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And will it be fun?